Now, Bob Katter is the first of the independents in federal parliament to throw his weight behind the government's flood levy. Legislation for the levy will be introduced into parliament today. The Queensland independent says the destruction caused by Cyclone Yasi leaves him little choice.
The other independents whose support is vital, they're yet to make up their minds. But Mr Katter has told ABC Radio while he still wants a permanent disaster fund set up, he won't make an issue of it.
Well, I haven't got that luxury anymore because of what's happened with the cyclone in North Queensland. They've got me boxed in, haven't they? I mean, we've had colossal losses. To provide the money needed for an appropriate response, there's no way you're going to carve that out of a budget that exists. There's going to have to be a levy to provide the extra funds to help.
Queensland Independent MP Bob Katter there. Now, the government will need the support, as we mentioned, of the Independents and the Greens to get the levy through the lower house.
Independent MP for Denison, Andrew Wilkie, says he's yet to be persuaded to support the levy. He joins us now from Canberra. Andrew Wilkie, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
What concerns do you have?
Well, I have a number of concerns. Probably most importantly is I'm yet to be persuaded that there's such a great imperative to have the federal budget back in a surplus before the 2013 election. I share the view of many notable economists who say let's just run the deficit out another 12 months. I mean, the point here is not whether or not we will fund the reconstruction of Queensland and Victoria and other places. That will occur. The issue here is the best mechanism for making it happen. Now, I would add there has been a lot of talk about the levy itself, but I think there needs to be just as much of a conversation about the proposed cuts to government expenditure. And I have been persuaded that some cuts, such as the cuts to the solar flagship program, the cut to the Australian Learning and Teaching Council, I think those cuts are unwarranted and in fact quite damaging.
Are those cuts a potential deal breaker for you?
Yeah, I think they are potential deal breakers. But having said that, I've now met with the Prime Minister personally on 2 occasions. She's prepared to talk through this. All of the crossbenchers are reasonable men. I'm sure we can reach a satisfactory understanding by the end of these negotiations.
How close to the precipice, though, are you prepared to go?
Oh, well, look, I feel very strongly about the solar flagship program. That's a $250 million, literally a flagship program for renewable energy in this country. At the same time, we're looking to cut that, while enormous amounts of money are going to carbon industries. And one of the industries which has been singled out by a Get Up program, and I'm holding a press conference with them later this morning to talk about this very matter, is the $600 million in tax breaks to the petroleum condensate industry. These are areas where the government should be also considering cutbacks, and instead it went straight to a long list of carbon reduction measure cutbacks.
So that's one area that you'd like targeted as an alternative. What other areas should the government cut if those 2 measures you're talking about are taken off the table, but the government still obviously needs to fund that more than $5 billion reconstruction effort?
Oh, look, I'm open-minded, but, the federal budget's $350 billion a year. If we can't find a few $100 million so that we don't have to cut back these important programs, I think that would be a pretty straightforward exercise for a competent government.
And what's your view on the actual flood levy itself? Philosophically, are you supportive of what the government's planning to do there?
Look, I don't have a philosophical objection to the levy itself, and I think the way it's been crafted is quite wise. I think it is sensible that most wage earners will be exempt from it. Another large number will pay very little, and it's the high wage earners, such as myself and other politicians, who should pay the most. And in fact, my understanding is the top 3% of wage earners will pay almost half of that levy. Now, I don't have an objection to a levy, and I think levies have been used very effectively over recent years for a number of reasons, such as the gun buyback. So I don't object to that. But I do object to a levy being used unnecessarily. And I make the point again that I share the view of a number of economists who feel that, we would be entirely warranted in simply running the budget deficit out another 12 months. But that issue seems to have become an important political issue for the government, which seems to be scared stiff of being in deficit come the next federal election.
Where do you stand on the concept of a permanent disaster fund, an idea espoused by some of your fellow crossbenchers?
I see great merit in that. I think it is reasonable that within our baseline budget and our baseline means, we have the means to deal with natural disasters. They are occurring with alarming regularity. Some would say they're increasing. So I think a fund is a good idea. I'm open-minded about how that might be created. but I would want to see safeguards that it doesn't become a slush fund for so-called disaster or damage mitigation measures in marginal seats.
Well, finally, Andrew Wilkie, it's been, 5 or 6 months now since the government was formed. From your point of view, you mentioned your regular meetings with the Prime Minister earlier. How are the wheels of minority government turning?
My impression is that this Parliament is working well, and I always felt that it would work well. You know, we have the opportunity here for a much richer Parliament because now no one major party has a monopoly on ideas. And if the opposition has good ideas, you know, I'll support them, as will the other crossbenchers. We've got a number of votes on in the chamber this morning, and we may well see the opposition win some of those if they're good ideas. I am pleased to see the government working very hard with the crossbenchers, consulting with us, meeting with us every week, very responsive to our needs. I'm also pleased to see that the opposition, I think, has moved to a more constructive approach to working with the crossbenchers and working in the chamber. I think that this could be a very rich year for the development of good public policy in this country.
Andrew Wilkie in Canberra, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Michael.